If your 2005 through 2023 four-wheel drive Tacoma's axle is clicking, your boot is ripped, and you're throwing grease, or you have a full-blown axle failure, this front extreme duty CV axle for extreme temperatures is a solid option. Now, this is a great upgrade and replacement to a damaged axle, and it's specifically designed to handle abuse. Great if you're taking your Tacoma off-road often, or you do a lot of on-road driving and want an axle that you can rely on to hold up. Now, I do want to mention that this is only one axle right out of the box, so if you are looking to replace both sides, you will need to pick up two of these. Now, axles can go bad for a number of different reasons, but it's pretty common to see the boot rip, whether it's from age or even a lift kit that stretches it out over time. And then when it rips, the CV joint in there is subjected to dirt and other debris. Now, that can make a mess with all of the grease that's inside, and it can eventually lead to failure. But to avoid that, this replacement axle is a solid solution, and it's engineered for upgraded performance, even in extreme temperatures, as it says in the name. Now, while it is stronger compared to a factory replacement option, this is still made to similar OE spec for a direct bolt-in construction, so it doesn't require any modification in order to get it in place. Now, this is made of high temp resistant steel materials, being strong and able to last even in tough conditions, as I mentioned, which is great for the off-roader. Now, the boots protecting the joints are also made of a thermoplastic polyester elastomer, TPE, and a cold resistant rubber, which have extreme temperature resistance in drastically cold or drastically hot conditions. Now, the heavy duty boot clamps are also designed to remain in place in harsher driving conditions and in lifted applications, so you can trust that those are gonna stay. Now, the grease in the joint is also resistant to higher temperatures with a higher frictional and abrasion resistance, and the kit comes with everything that you need in order to install it. This comes in at about $275 each, which is pretty average as far as price point is concerned for an axle. Now, comparing it to others on the page, this is a middle ground option with the factory-like construction that bolts right up to the truck, but has a tougher build to withstand that abuse. Now, there are other OE entry-level replacements, and then on the other hand, there are long travel extended axles for an entirely different axle setup. So if you do want a solid upgrade and replacement, kind of that middle ground option to a damaged axle shaft, then this is a solid choice. Install here is a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and for one axle, it should take about 2 hours or so with the right tools and setup. Now, at this point, I'm gonna hand it over to one of our installers. They will show you a detailed breakdown process of how to get this bolted up to your Tacoma, whether you are tackling the install yourself or you're just curious about the install. So that wraps it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into it.
For this install, you will need a hammer, a dead blow mallet, a pry bar, various impacts, an air hammer with a tapered chisel, ratchet, needle nose pliers, 10, 12, and 35 millimeter sockets, 17 and 19 millimeter swivel sockets, a 10 millimeter Allen socket, a caliper hanger tool, a chisel, gear oil, a 19 millimeter ratchet wrench, and also not shown here is a jack and jack stands. What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing a CV axle on our Tacoma, so let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to do, obviously we've got the truck in the air, we've got the wheels off. We're going to remove our caliper and rotor. That's going to be less weight on our knuckle. The first thing we need to do for that is remove our brake line bracket from our knuckle itself. So we've got our 12 mil socket on our impact. We'll pop this bolt off and get this out of the way. So now we're going to remove our caliper. We're going to use our 17 millimeter swivel socket on our impact to get our 2 bolts out. We'll support our caliper. Get this one out. Once you have both of your bolts out, you can pull your caliper off. Now we're going to support this with our caliper hanger tool. Get that through our caliper. Hook that onto our body. Then we can pull our rotor off. Next, we're going to remove our sway bar end link from our knuckle. So we'll once again use that 17 mil socket on our impact. Pop that off, slide our end link out. Now to keep track of this nut, you can just put it right back on your link for now. So now we've got a small chisel and a hammer. We're going to get the cap for the axle nut off. You want to be careful not to hit your lug nuts while doing this, or your lug studs rather. Next, we're going to take our needle nose pliers and remove our cotter pin. You want to straighten the ends out as much as possible. Makes it a lot easier to pull this through. Pop that out. Take out your retainer. Now we can access our axle nut. Next, we can remove our axle nut with our 35mm socket on our impact. All right, so next up we can loosen our upper ball joint for our upper control arm. Now we're going to take our pin out first. We'll set that aside. Then we'll grab our wrench and we're just going to loosen this. We're not going to fully remove it just yet. Now we can grab our 19mm ratcheting wrench to get this loose. So you want to leave this on at least by a few threads so it can catch your upper control arm when we unseat our ball joint. So to do that, we're going to grab a hammer, give a few taps on our knuckle, and get this to pop out of its seat. Next, we're going to get our tie rod out. And the first thing we have to do is remove our cotter pin. So we've got our needle nose pliers. And we'll just straighten that out as best as possible. Now that we've got this straightened out, we'll pull our cotter pin. Then we'll do the same thing as our ball joint. We'll loosen this up, again with our 19mm wrench. And we'll leave that on a couple threads and we'll give a tap on our knuckle to unseat that. Now once this gets unseated, we'll fully remove our nut, pull our tie rod, now we can spin our hub. Now once we have this out, we can access our wheel speed sensor and we're going to take that out with our 10mm socket. So we've got our 10mm socket on our impact. We'll take this out. Pull out our sensor. You want to be very careful with this as you're doing it. We'll pull that back, get that up out of the way. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is get our axle moving out of the back of our knuckle itself. So we just want to get it started. So the first thing we're going to do is try to hit it with a dead blow mallet and see if it moves. So if the dead blow mallet doesn't work, you might have to grab yourself an air hammer with a tapered anvil. We're going to get that in the center of our axle. Just give it a light push at first. Like that. Now it's nice and free. Then what we can do is release our upper ball joint. So we're going to pull down on our control arm, remove that nut, let that come up. And that's going to drop down. Now we're going to support our knuckle and grab our 19mm socket on our impact and remove the 2 bolts holding our knuckle to our lower ball joint. Get the first one out. Do the same thing for our second one. We can push our axle back through our hub. We'll remove our knuckle, set it aside. So now we're going to support our axle and get a pry bar on the back side of it and gently pry out. So now you will need a drain pan underneath here because you will lose differential fluid in the process of this. Once you get that popped out, pull your axle. Now we can get our new axle in place. So we'll slide it up into position. We'll very gently run this in. You will have to rotate it. Find the splines. It'll kind of seat a little bit once you find the splines. Then we're going to have to give it a little bit of persuasion to go in. So we're going to grab our dead blow mallet. And once you get it close, you can give it a little push. Make sure that has a solid thud to it. And your back seal is nice and flush. Now we've got our knuckle back, and we're going to line that up with our axle. You want to get that started through. We're going to reinstall our lower ball joint bolts. Get our second one back in. Get these hand tight for just a moment. And we're going to let our axle come through our hub. We're going to loosely install our new axle nut. This is just going to help hold everything in place. And we'll go right to our upper ball joint. Get that loosely back into place. Now we know nothing's going to fall out on us. Now we're going to tighten our axle nut back down with our 35mm socket. Now we can reinstall our retainer. Get our cotter pin back through. You can bend that back into place. Now there's no real wrong way to bend a cotter pin as long as it's blocking the threads and the nut from backing out. That's the main goal. And once we have that on, we can cap this back off. So we get our cap back in place and grab our dead blow mallet. Get that tap back in nice and flush. Now we'll tighten our lower ball joint bolts back down. Again with our 19mm socket. Now we can tighten down our upper ball joint, again with our 19mm socket. And once we're done with that, we're going to reinstall our wheel speed sensor. We'll very carefully get this back into position. Now we're going to carefully get our sensor back in. Get our 10mm bolt. We'll tighten that back down with our 10mm socket. Want to make sure that sits nice and flush. Next we can get our outer tie rod back in. Get our nut back on. Tighten that down with our 19mm socket. Once again, reinstall our cotter pin. Bend that so it covers the threads. And we can get our sway bar end link back in. Reinstall that nut. We'll tighten that back down with our 17mm socket. And once we have all this back together, we will reinstall our brakes. Now we're going to get our rotor back in place. Get that lined up back on our hub. Then we'll reinstall our caliper. Pick this up. This line back up. And we'll reinstall our bolts. Once we get our first one in, we'll get our second one back in. Caliper hanger. Then we can tighten those back down with our 17mm swivel socket. Then lastly, we'll get our brake line back into place on our knuckle. Line that locator back up. We install our 12mm bolt, and we'll tighten that back down with our 12mm socket. Now once you got everything back in place, you want to remember to torque everything down to the manufacturer recommended specifications. And also we're going to need to refill our front differential because, as you noticed, we lost a lot of fluid when we pulled the axle out, which is totally fine. We'll just have to follow the right procedures with the correct gear fluid and fill it back up to spec. All right, so after replacing your axle, as mentioned, you will need to top off your differential fluid. So you'll want to come to the driver's side where we just replaced our axle, and you're going to find your drain plug and your fill plug. Now, if you want to take this time to do a full service and a full drain, you will need to remove this bottom plug first, drain all your fluid out. However, we're just going to top ours off, which is perfectly fine. Then you'll want to come to your fill plug and grab a 10mm Allen socket and get that off. We'll get our fill plug out. Now once you have this out, you're going to grab the recommended differential fluid, which is 7585 GL5. And you're going to fill this until you see fluid start coming out of the fill plug. You want it to be a pretty steady stream draining back out. Then once you have that filled up, you can simply reinstall your fill plug. Then tighten that back down. Then you'll want to clean up your differential with some brake clean and some rags, just to make sure you don't have any drips or anything like that. Alrighty folks, that about wraps up our review and install of our Extreme Duty CV axle for extreme temperatures for the front of your 05 to 23 four-wheel drive Tacoma. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Tacoma, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.